Hey, what's going on, guys? It's TrackYT here, or Nick, back with another brand new Minecraft pallets video. So today, guys, I have designed 5 different Minecraft pallets that basically will help you expand your block choice, because I find that a lot of builders typically build with the same style or the same block choice every single time, and I wanted to be able to allow people to try to mix that up and explore different things that look good together, as well as it personally for myself helps me expand that as well, because I sometimes get in a loop where I build with the exact same blocks over and over again. So without further, guys, let's jump right into the first pallet. So we are over in Minecraft 1.14. So we've got a lot of different blocks. Now, I have pretty much been playing Minecraft 1.8.9 for like a solid 2 years. Like, I haven't played many versions after that, but there's so many amazing different building blocks that have come out since when I guess I've upgraded, because I've only been playing 1.8.9, so I've had the same blocks for like 2 years. So I decided to go to 1.14 so that way we can try out a couple new blocks. So jumping right into the blocks in this palette, we've got gravel, mossy cobble, and then we've got concrete, which is basically clay just with no texture on it, so it's a solid color for the most part. So we've got the brown concrete block, then we've got red sand, which is red sandstone, but it's red sand, and then we've got the stripped oak wood. Oh my gosh, do I love this block. It's just the strip texture on all of the log blocks is just absolutely amazing, and you can literally use it for anything. You could use it for a tree, you could use it for a walkway, you could use it for what I used it as part of the ground. Just an amazing texture. Then we've got terracotta, which used to be named clay. I kind of want to keep calling it clay just because, you know, I like the clay. It's just so much easier to say than terracotta. And then we've got a new block, which is dead fire coral block, which is like one of the cool colorful coral blocks, but if you bring it outside of water, it turns into this block, and it's a really nice stone-ish kind of block. And then we've just got ourselves some cobblestone. So the build itself is supposed to be like a campsite in like autumn or fall or that time of year, so everything's gonna have that oranges hue to it, and that's kind of what I played off when designing this palette. I find that it's easiest to build with blocks that are all in a way monochromatic, not directly just like different shades of one color, but like have the same hue to them. So like all of this right here is for the most part some form of brown / orange, probably a lot more brown, but they're all different shades of brown, some lighter, some darker, so they all work really well together, and if you place them correctly, they kind of just look amazing. So that's kind of what we played off. We went with this block palette as more or less the ground, and that's what I do a lot of. I like to make sure that the ground is just textured as the build that I'm doing, and in this case it's actually the opposite way around. The ground is way more detailed than the actual focal build because, well, I just kind of did that, but we did add a little bit of detail onto the actual build. But my palette for this was mainly trying to focus on the environment rather than on the actual build. Now with 1.14 you get this campfire, so I thought that just made this whole build come together. We've got these custom trees on the side, we've got the little campsite, and then we've got the little campfire, and then we got all the blocks from our palette kind of spread out really nicely throughout. And if you're looking for a really cool, I guess, texture or nice palette for building a really cool terrain that's not a naturally generated terrain in Minecraft, I would definitely suggest going with something along these lines because it looks absolutely amazing. And then if you do it in a savanna biome, which I did, you get this really nice, I guess, light green or like kind of pastel-y green texture on the grass, which kind of ties in the whole theme of the build. And obviously you can actually use this color combo or these blocks and try to mix them into an actual build. Like you could use this for like a house, this could be the supports of the house, you could use this as maybe the walls, this as a roof. I don't know, get creative with it, but I really like all of these blocks right here together. So next up we've got a really, I kind of love this palette. My whole idea for this build was kind of go with like a Japanese temple style build. So we've got the, I guess, the blossom trees, the cherry blossom tree in the background, and then we've kind of got the Japanese temple right there. But let's dive right into the palette. So we've got terracotta, and I believe we've got, we got both colored terracotta. So we got lime green and light green. And then for the most of, I guess, the terrain, we wanted to try to use diorite. Ever since 1.14, they updated all the diorite, andesite, and granite textures, so they actually look really good now. Like right here, this is andesite, and this is diorite. I would have never used diorite before, but now that it's not such an intense texture, it looks really nice. And then this is granite. Can you imagine using granite in 1.8.9? I never did. I honestly literally never used it, but this is definitely a much softer texture now that I could definitely see myself using a lot more. So we've got all of the andesite, granite, and diorite, and then we've got ourselves white concrete. Now I use this for the actual, I guess, house, and I like this because the concrete texture has pretty much no details on it. It's pretty much all just one color, and if you want a really nice crisp white or really nice crisp red, blue, whatever the color you want, concrete is probably the way to go. And then we've got, I guess, some pink wool as well as pink glass and stuff like that to really kind of go for leaves on this tree. Since there's no pink leaf blocks in the game, I had to go and be creative and use other colored pink blocks. Now, I kind of hope that in future Minecraft updates, they add a new biome that has cherry blossom trees and has actual green leaves. Or not green leaf, pink leaves. I think that would be awesome. And then again, we have that stripped texture. Oh, I love it. It looks so great. In this, we used it as part of the terrain, so it kind of matches the grass and dirt texture. And then lastly, we've got the spruce wood that we used for the tree, as well as that we used for the actual build. So one of the main keys for building in this exact palette was the biome that it's set in. You're going to find that kind of to be a theme throughout the rest of this thing is you kind of have to play off of the biome because some blocks, such as grass, are affected differently in different biomes. So grass is all going to be the same, I guess, block, but it has different shades and different textures. And this one being in the taiga biome, it has a really nice pastel green, which works really well with the pinks, the really, really dark spruce wood, and then it works well with all these other blocks that are down here. So if this was like a jungle biome, this would not work. It would look super weird, but because it's a taiga biome and has the nice pastel feel throughout the entire build, it works amazing. One little 1.14 thing that I really like is they added these lanterns. Definitely, if I play a lot more 1.14 Minecraft, I will have to use these all the time because they are an amazing detail piece. Like, the only light sources we had before were like glowstone and, I guess, redstone lanterns and torches. That was about it. Having these lanterns, these really, really nice detailed lanterns that are hanging lanterns, are amazing. You can use them on the side of builds like this. If you wanted to, you could actually use a fence post and you could build up over the side, and then you could grab one of these lanterns, put it underneath, and it hangs down like that. I just think that's absolutely amazing. I think it's a very subtle but really nice block they added to Minecraft, and I think it still fits in with the whole theme of Minecraft because it's not too out there. In modded Minecraft, they have things like this, but some of them just don't fit the whole theme of Minecraft, and I think this little lantern right here definitely does. Jumping over to our next palette, I tried to, on all 5 of these, really mix them up. All have pretty much polarizing, I guess, themes to them. So the first one was like an autumn theme, this one was like a nice Japanese, like, I guess, pastel theme, and now we've got ourselves like a sandstone, like, I guess, desert themed build. So for our palette, we've got coarse dirt, which we use mainly for this path right here. We're jumping over here, we've got gravel also for the path, and then we also got the actual path block that we used for the path, and then we kind of go into our more sandstones and tan textures. So we've got the stripped birch log, which looks really close in resemblance to the sand, so I was able to intermix it kind of throughout this entire, I guess, ground right here. Then we've got the sand texture, and then we've got another stripped log, which the texture on it is very, I wouldn't say it's intense, so it's like kind of dull, and with having such a dull texture, you're able to match it up with other blocks that are pretty bland, I guess. So like this is a pretty bland block, and this texture's pretty bland, so I think they work really well together because it's not too clashing. Like if this was the straight log texture, this would almost look out of place in my opinion, so I think that's a really good move. And then we had the oak planks, because you gotta have that. It's another nice tan texture that works really well with the sandstones. And then for our like focal color in the thing, other than the green and the blues, we have red, which we kind of tucked away behind all these walls, which kind of just gives that little tiny bit of detail and a little bit of, I guess, splash of color in the build that we need, because really all the color other than tan in this entire build is the red, the really nice crisp blue of the water, and then the green leaves throughout. So you can have a really nice monochromatic build like tan and different colors of gray and stuff like that, but it's nice to have a little bit of color in there, so that's why I tried to mix in the red, the green, and the blue. And then lastly, we've got another sand. So we've got sand, and then we've got the cut sandstone. So just, they're pretty close in texture, but they do have just a slight bit, and if you wanted to, you could really mix them in and kind of give yourself a nice full texture throughout the build. Now, the actual build is supposed to be some form of temple or something. Obviously, I only got to build part of it, so I never really got to fully go in depth on creativity, so you don't get to really see the whole build. You kind of just get like a little bit of a facade. But we've got a nice little pond right here with some fountains coming out of the side, and then we've got this nice little path up here, and then we've got this nice little, probably would be the start of like a fortress almost. And then if you can see, we intermixed in the lanterns. I love these blocks. I'm gonna probably be using these in a lot of 1.14 builds, and since it was kind of like a desert temple style build, we wanted to make it look kind of abandoned, so we mixed in some cobblestone, and then we mixed in a little bit of redstone on the ground just because it gives a really nice texture, because it's not powered redstone, so it's a really dark, almost, if you really look at it, it's like almost a brown, but it's actually red. But it's just such a nice little texture to kind of throw on the ground. Gives a little bit of detail without taking away too much from the rest of the build. Moving over to our next one, we had to throw in a jungle one in there because I actually really like just the standard jungles that spawn in Minecraft. The only thing is I'm not a huge fan of the trees, but from this build, I'll get into detail in a second on it, but these are actually naturally spawning jungle trees that I just changed a slight little bit. So jumping straight into the palette, we've got ourselves some acacia wood, we've got ourselves stone and andesite. That's kind of intermixed just back there because I wanted to do pretty much just flat stone, but I wanted just a slight little bit of texture other than just the straight stone texture. So the new andesite texture is almost identical to the stone texture, just a little bit different. So it clashes really well and looks really nice. Then we've got both terracotta greens. Actually, we've got concrete and then we've got terracotta, so two different blocks. I'm gonna mix those up a lot because they're so close in texture, but they're pretty much the same color for the most part. Then we've got jungle wood, we've got orange terracotta, we've got stripped acacia wood, which actually almost looks like a terracotta block, so it looks really well over here. And then we've got the oak texture, and then we've got, well, I didn't put it down, but we've got the jungle planks over there as well. Then we've got just straight grass, and then we've got the emerald ore kind of mixed in throughout the build. So kind of the theme in this build as far as the palette goes is we chose like 3 colors, and then we just kind of use different versions of that color. And what I mean by that, so if you see over here, we've kind of got like an orangish theme going on here, which you can see resembled in this block right here, which is that stripped acacia log. Then we've got the jungle planks, which have an orangish hue to them, and then we've got the orange terracotta, which is orange clay, and then the wood planks up here. So that's one color, so like an orangish theme. And then we've got the green, so really all the green, you can see all the jungle leaves, all the grass, and then we've got all the the terracotta and the concrete. And then lastly, we've got gray, we've got the acacia logs right here, the 2 different stones, and then the emeralds right there. And those are basically what this build is. It's like 3 colors and then just kind of different versions of that color throughout the build, and I think it really comes together really nice. And I think as far as a build goes, when you're building in a jungle or just you're trying to do a jungle style theme, you kind of have to play into what a jungle actually is. It's just an absolutely immense amount of overgrowth, so you really have to let your builds be overtaken by the environment. Otherwise, it will kind of stand out. So like if you're going to build like I did, it's not a huge build. It's just a little, I guess, dock right here. But I let the tree kind of just take over and have the environment be the focal point rather than the build, because I just wanted to play off what actually happens in reality. Is jungles are just so beautiful in nature that they take over everything that's in it. So like the Mayan temples and stuff like that, I wanted to really play into this build right here. And going off on a little tangent, these trees that I'm talking about, what I did for these is I literally spawned in a big jungle tree, and then I just changed it just a slight bit. I added some more leaves to make them kind of feel like they're drooping down with little vines. And then that's kind of about it. I mean, I added a little bit of extra logs on here. I took away a little bit right here, but that was only to give it a little bit of depth. But these are pretty much just jungle trees that you spawn in naturally. I just changed them the slightest little bit, and it just makes them a whole new tree altogether. Moving on to our final palette. Now you can see this is kind of an interesting palette. So I really wanted to play off these concrete I guess, textures. So like for me, these new concrete powders right here look so much like sand. I almost want to call them colored sand because that's what to me they look like. It looks like the sand texture, just a colored version of it, and I think that might have been what Minecraft was going for, but they couldn't just call it colored sand, so they made it concrete powder. And so originally what I had was these these four. So I had the regular sand, the light gray, the blue, and then the cyan, and I just thought those looked really cool and really made me think of like an under the sea style build. So since my theme was more or less under the sea, but I wanted to do it minus water, I wanted to do it like an exposed under the sea, like kind of just imagine that you're underwater but not actually have any water. So this is supposed to be like the sea floor, and these are supposed to be like seaweed, and like there's a sea pickle. And then since we're on sand and stuff like this, we can't actually add any of those new colorful coral blocks because, well, we're not underwater, so we aren't able to add that. So we have to kind of be creative and use these different colored sands down here to act as those corals for us, and also give that blue theme to it so you can kind of feel more like you're under the sea. And then we've got the ship in the background, and what I really like is we ended up using the white concrete block for the sails of the ship because it looks so much better than the wool texture. I don't know if it's just my texture pack, because I am using the faithful 32x32 texture pack, so I don't know if it's just my texture pack that makes the wool look kind of ugly now, but it does, to be honest with you. So I like this concrete texture way more. So looking at the actual palette, we've got some acacia leaves, we've got light blue and cyan concrete powder, and then we've got dark oak wood, we've got dark oak planks, and then spruce planks, and then we've got light gray concrete powder, just regular sand, and then the white concrete block. And I think all these blocks work really well together. So from an actual palette standpoint, again, we went with basically 3 colors and then used different variants of it. So we got the blue, we've got our cyan, and then our light blue, which is kind of our blue of the map, and then we've got our really nice browns, so we kind of mix those mainly into the pirate ship in the background. And then we've got our lighter color blocks, or like our gray tannish / white. So we've got our light gray, our tan, and we've got our white right here. So that's kind of the theme of the map. So that's pretty much all 5 of these block palettes that I came up with you for today. And I want to kind of quickly, before we end off today's video, tell you how I came up with these block palettes and what you guys can do to come up with block palettes of your own. So the best tip that I can give for making really nice looking block palettes is you kind of have to get artistic with it. And what I mean by that is you have to go with basically 3 colors. So pick 3 colors, like let's say gray, brown, and orange, for example, in the background in this build. So pick those 3 colors and then find blocks that suit each one of those categories. So find a bunch of nice looking gray blocks that go together, find a bunch of nice looking orange blocks that go together, and find a bunch of nice looking brown blocks that go together. For example, in this build, we only had 2 of the brown, we only had maybe 2 of the orange, and then we had about 4 of the gray. So if you have these 3 different textures or 3 different colors, and then you mix them all together in some really nice pattern or something like that, it's going to end up looking really, really nice because they're all going to fit really well together. So if we just had, like, let's say 1 orange block, it would look a little out of place because we got the terracotta and then the orange sand. They were kind of one and the same because it's just there's 2 blocks, which in my opinion makes it kind of flow a lot better. I'm not really putting it into words the right way, but it makes it less focal, and that was kind of the point. It turns it into a palette rather than being a focal block. So if any of these palettes down here, guys, were at all helpful for you guys, let me know down in the comments section down below. And if you guys end up doing any builds with these palettes, I would absolutely love seeing them. My Twitter is linked in the description, so without a doubt, please tweet me your builds if you use any of these palettes, because I think that would be awesome. I'd love to see other people's builds. But guys, that's where we are bringing today's video to a wrap. Again, if you guys did enjoy today's video, definitely show your support down below, and while you're down there, guys, might as well hit that subscribe button. But as always, guys, I love you all. See you guys next time. Peace out.